All right, so I'm here today to talk about rational functions, and we're asked the question to write the equation for a graph that is of the form y equals 1 over x, has been shifted up 3 and left 5. So let's talk about translations. You got horizontal translations and you got vertical translations, okay? So let's start with vertical translations. You take your function, okay, f of x, and you add. Okay, in our case, they want it shifted up 3, so we add 3. Okay, so it's f of x plus 3. Okay, so what does that look like for our equation y equals 1 over x? Well, we take, this is our function f of x, and we add 3. Okay, pretty simple, right? How about horizontal translations? Horizontal translations affect x. So that means it has to be grouped with x. Now it says left 5. Now when you say left 5, my brain says minus 5. Because left on the x-axis is in the negative direction. However, if you've ever done anything with horizontal and vertical translations, you know that horizontal translations are always backwards. I'm going to show you why in a minute. But so if it's backwards, left 5 is actually going to be what? Plus 5. Okay, notice the difference. It's f of x plus 3, f of x plus 5. Okay, so one's in the parentheses, one's not. So this means the function plus 3, the function plus 3. This means you've got to add the 5, not to the whole function, only to the x. So that's going to be plus 5. Okay? Now, what do we need to do? We need to put these two things together into one thing. That's going to be our answer. But before we do that, I want to talk about why 1 is backwards. There's a couple ways to explain this. Obviously, the simplest way is for you to break out a graphing calculator or a sheet of graph paper and graph several functions that have been shifted left or right. Okay, and what you'll see is when this quantity is positive, it shifts to the left, and when this quantity is negative, it shifts to the right. I'm going to give you a different way to look at this because these are not backwards from each other. These are identical. Here's what I want to do. I'm going to take this vertical translation, right? So plus 3 means up 3, plus 3, it makes sense. This one, we feel like it's quote unquote backwards. It's not. Let me show you. Take this guy and group him with y. Now to group this with y, you're going to have to move it to that left-hand side. What would you get? Okay, take this guy, right? And there's what you get, okay? So this notion that the horizontal translation is backwards is not true. They're both backwards. If you group something with x, it's opposite of what you would think. If you group something with y, it's the opposite of what you think. The thing is, when we work with equations, we always solve for y. And so when this guy gets moved over, he becomes positive. Okay, so something to think about, something for you to see. Now, you shouldn't write your equations like this. You should write them like this. But that's why one looks backwards and one doesn't. Okay, so let's take our knowledge now. We know this plus 3, right? We know this plus 5. Let's put that together. What's our equation look like? It looks like 1 over x plus 5 plus 3. Okay, so we feel like we've answered the question. It's a function 1 over x shifted 5 to the left and up 3. If you put that answer, it's incorrect. Why is that true? Why is that incorrect? Well, rational functions. Rational functions are fractions. Okay? Here's the problem. That's not a fraction. That's a fraction. That's not. Okay? So what we need to do is we need to combine these two quantities into one fraction, and that will be a correct final answer. So I take y equals 1 over x plus 5 plus 3 over 1. I need to find the common denominator. Now, lucky for me, if I've got some polynomial or monomial or whatever over here, and I've got a 1 over here, this is my LCD. So I'm going to multiply the bottom and the top by x plus 5. Now, when I do that, what do I get? Well, I get 1 over x plus 5 plus 3x plus 15 over x plus 5, right? So just distributed that 3, okay? And all of that's y equals. Now, we're going to combine these two numerators, so we get y equals 3x, and it's 1 plus 15, so that's going to be plus 16 over x plus 5, because remember, you don't add denominators. That's why we have common denominators. And that is our final answer. And also, that is why it's very difficult to look at a rational equation and know where it's been shifted to, okay? What we have to learn is how to take this and break it into these two things, okay? So, fair enough, right? So anyway, but if you're asked a question where they want a rational function translated left or right and up or down, and they want the final answer to be a single fraction, that's how you do it. I hope that helps someone. If you have questions, let me know. And if you have video ideas, send them to me. I'll be glad to make any video you want, anywhere closely related to math. Hope it helps. Have a great one.